he takes our sin and on himself.
Yeah, because of the justice David was talking about, we have to stand before God. None of us is just enough to get into heaven because we all think bad things, we've said bad things, we've all broken the 10 Commandments, coveted. And so we can't be without justice applied before, which is eternal separation from God. Jesus, who is sinless, took that punishment upon us. And it explains everything. It explains the human nature, our frailties, our sin nature. This book I'm talking about.
And I'm just going to read 2 verses out of John 10, 14 and verse 14 and 15. I am the good shepherd, and I know my sheep, and am known by my own. As the Father knows me, even so I know the Father, and I lay my life down for the sheep. It's all about relationship, David. It has nothing to do with religion. In fact, Jesus speaks against the men of tradition. He said, you honor me with your lips, but your hearts are far from me. Depart from me, you workers of iniquity. And you'll find that in Mark chapter 6, I believe, and Matthew or Luke. It's in another gospel. And so he even in that passage, I am the good shepherd, he's speaking to the Pharisees, and he's contrasting himself with a hireling. Those religious leaders. The sheep do not hear the hireling.
False religious leaders.
Yeah, false religious leaders, yeah. But again, it's relationship religion.
David, thanks for calling. And he's gone? Okay, cool. Maybe we'll talk to you next week. In any case, guys, when do we get that first section of film ready to roll? And this section is 7.5 minutes long, and we'll be back. Again, we're live here tonight. The date will come up when we get back. But it's Saturday, February 2nd, 2008. So if you're in February 2008...
I think, is there another call coming in?
We're live. We may be getting another call. No, we're not getting it. Okay, so let's run that first section of film, 7.5 minutes. We'll be back to talk with you in 7.5 minutes.
Either life originated by a process of chance, or it came into existence because of a supernatural creator, designer. Now, in our last session, we looked at this subject of why the universe exists, why the solar system exists, and our planet. Now we want to get down to the basic point regarding the creation-evolution controversy, and that is, how did life come into existence on this planet? And again, we turn to some of the statements made by individuals who claim that evolution is the only credible worldview, claiming that science has proven that life has originated not because of a designer creator, but because of a natural process. For example, we can quote Isaac Asimov, former promoter of evolution, now deceased, who has made this statement in the past regarding the origin of life. We can make inspired guesses, but we don't know for certain what physical and chemical properties of the planet's crust, its ocean, and its atmosphere made it so conducive to such a sudden appearance of life. Nor are we certain about the amounts and the forms of energy that permeated the environment in the planet's early days. Thus, the problem that scientists face is how to explain the suddenness with which life appeared on planet Earth. Now, this is a rather significant statement. Asimov was willing to admit that the best that we could do regarding the subject of the origin of life is to make inspired guesses. But as we mentioned in our previous presentation, science must be based on fact, observable evidence, and repeatable experimentation. Certainly there must be more than this in order to verify the idea that life has evolved. John Reeder, evolutionist, scientist, from the book The Rise of Life, page 9, regarding the origin of life, makes this statement. Once life began, its story becomes a logical, not to say inevitable, sequence of evolutionary cause and effect, which science is able to recount in fascinating detail. But just how life began is still something of a mystery. Not incontrovertibly explained. The chemical constituents of organisms have been identified. The biochemical processes that keep organisms alive are known in complex detail. But the vital spark that initiates life awaits precise definition. Life, so obvious and simple a phenomenon, yet so hard to explain. Well, another interesting statement made by a scientist, evolutionist, and as you can see, there is no proof that life has originated from non-life by chance. Well, Raymond Hawkey, scientist, evolutionist, in the book Evolution, the Story of the Origins of Humankind, page 1, regarding the origin of life, states, after countless chance encounters between organic molecules, an event as miraculous as that which created the universe occurred in the depths of the seas. About 3,500 million years ago, groups of organic molecules came together to form living cells, which all life was ultimately to descend. So, as we can see from these three statements, there's one common denominator, and that is the evolutionary worldview is based on the assumption that in the distant, unobservable past, non-life became life, spontaneously, without a designer, without a creator. Well, all of us at one time or another have seen typical charts like this one taken from a National Geographic, showing how life takes hold on an infant planet. And there on this mural, we see the sequence. On the left-hand bottom corner, we see lightning bolts striking the primitive pond. Then above that, we see the appearance of atoms forming molecules. And then these molecules become more complex. And then we see the appearance of a cell and then a multicellular creature. There's the sequence. That's how they say it happened. But is this proof? A number of years ago, in the late 80s, I had an opportunity to be involved in a documentary film called The Evolution Conspiracy. And we traveled around North America, in Canada, the United States, to major museums and universities. And we interviewed curators of museums and professors, asking them why they believed that evolution was true. One of the locations where we went was to the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. And we were interviewing the curator of the non-life to life portion of the museum. He was standing in front of a mural very much like the one that you're looking at here. And we asked him this simple question: how did life originate? And he attempted to answer. In fact, 3 times he attempted to answer, and each time he stuttered and stammered. And finally, after the 3rd attempt, he stopped and he said, I can't formulate the words in order to make a proper presentation. He said, you'll have to find somebody else to do this. And he refused to continue. And we were unable to use anything that he had said. He wouldn't even sign the release. So as we were taking down the camera equipment, the curator of the Smithsonian Institute walked over to the cameraman and he started to chuckle. He said, I'm almost embarrassed, but I realized as I was attempting to answer this question that the whole idea of the origin of life is so speculative. I certainly don't want to be in this film representing the evolutionary position. Now that's amazing, because over 6 million students are bused to the Smithsonian every year, and they see the same presentation. In fact, there's a little theater there. It's called the Chon Theater. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen are cartoon characters. And they do a little dance and join hands together, and poof, all of a sudden they become a cell. But cartoons and paintings do not prove that non-life can become life. No one has ever